What would be your advice on where to start? What would you suggest to someone who's completely new to tracking?
So like I said, like focus on those ones that are like they come kind of established with the platform that you're already on, like your WordPress, your Google, you're on Google whether you like it or not, and Amazon and places like that. And there's lots of really good, if you're a YouTube person, there's good YouTube videos that will teach you how to access this stuff and how to think about it and stuff like that. There are blog posts, so on and so forth. So there's definitely lots of great resources out there to get you started. Like I said, there are 4 author forums and discussion groups where if you want an aggregator that's going to do a lot of this for you, that's sort of more plug and chug, you can look into that as well. And then I guess the other thing I would say is when you're doing that kind of preliminary research to decide how you're going to set it up and where you want to start, that just like think about the person whose advice you're taking. So the reason that I keep codicilling what I say is that my perspective is very much my perspective, and other people who teach about this are going to be the same. So if the person who's teaching about it is exclusive to KU, they're going to have a different perspective on what data needs to be acquired. So like you do have to think about the agent of trust whose advice you're taking. So, that's just a little caution. So for example, one of the questions I often ask with author gurus in particular is, are they actually selling well in fiction, or are they actually making the bulk of their money on educating authors, which is technically nonfiction? So that's kind of something to think about. And what is their approach? And also what counts as good numbers for them so that you can like, for example, and I have a unique perspective on this, which is I know my own numbers and what's good for me and what's a good sales month for me and a not so good sales month for me. And that means it's not really worth it for me to take advice from an author who sells less well than I do, because their tactics are obviously something I'm probably already employing or not germane to my career. So yeah, that's like one thing. The other thing I would say is, even if you're at the very beginning of your career, getting these systems in place and really thinking about it early on, at least a few of them, it's a little bit like getting a newsletter started early, in that the habit that you're building for yourself as a career author is almost more important than the data you're actually collecting, because you're going to train yourself to know what's normal for you. And this is a mistake that a lot of authors who advertise make, which is they don't know what their flat line is, or their baseline, or their clean catch, or whatever scientific term you want to use. They don't know what their organic, normal, everyday sales are like without advertising. And it's really important that you know that, so that you know when you do something if it's effective or not. Right? So like I know exactly how much I sell in on a weekly basis, just on my backlist, without doing anything at all, without a launch, et cetera, which is how I can confidently say a truth which is universally acknowledged, which is when you have a new book out, the long tail effect on all of your other books in that series is profound. So the newest book is the most powerful promotional tool that you have, because yeah, I watch that new book in the series spike, and then I watch all of the spikes in any other books that are in that series. And the only way I can confidently say I get triple sales on the second book in the series or whatever is because I know what my baseline sales are. And so if you're going to do something like I was talking about, where you track a launch on different social media platforms, you need to know what your average sales are in a pre-order before you know whether you have a spike or not. So I run data on BookBub offers a paid sales promotion on the pre-order of a new book. Now they already will send out a new release information to your followers on BookBub, but they also offer you, the author, the option of paying to reach those people ahead of time. And I was like, well, let's see if that's actually effective, or if I'm already catching those people via the freebie that BookBub does for me. And it turns out that, like, calculation, but it turns out that if my book is priced $4.99 or higher, it makes sense for me to pay for that pre-order email. But if it's lower than $4.99, it doesn't make any sense at all. I don't recoup my losses within the BookBub ecosystem. Another great, like I just love this stuff so much. But another great thing is I have done and always do encourage during my offboarding process or unsubscribe process of my newsletter, people who just want new release information to either follow me on Amazon or follow me on BookBub. And that's because those two vendors send out new release info. So essentially they do it for me, because I don't offer that to my newsletter. I don't offer the option of just joining and only getting new release info. You either join for my monthly newsletter or you don't. And if you join for my monthly newsletter, you get the new release info. But if you just want that for me, you can go follow me on Amazon. You can go follow me on BookBub. And that's because there are always going to be people who hate newsletters. And you want them to know about your new books no matter what, right? So if they're not going to be part of your newsletter, just try and keep them. And if you have to farm them out to a second party or a middleman, fine. But another reason for this is it means that ever since I joined Author Central, which would be, I guess, and BookBub, which would be 2016, ever since then, I've been directing anybody who I can't catch onto my newsletter to those two venues in every part of social media, my website, offboarding process, everything, which means I have about, say, 5,000, 6,000 maybe followers on BookBub. But Amazon, because it's Amazon, doesn't tell me how many followers I have. But both of these vendors send out pre-order or new book release, but they also send out pre-order releases. So Amazon does it automatically for if you're above a certain number of followers, we think, and sometime within the 2-week window before your book comes out, we think.
Why is it gotta be so secretive? Why is it all smoke and mirrors? Just
I know, they
tell
don't
people
want us
what's
to have
going
it.
on.
I know. But by running a couple of BookBub pre-orders that I could track using all of my sneaky methods, I've been able to calculate the percentage of the people who follow me on BookBub who actually buy off a pre-order. And that's just very, like, I know, like, many authors don't really care about this kind of thing, but this is very interesting data for me to have. And I'm like, yes, I actually know about how many Amazon followers I have. And that's not information that Amazon is willing to give me, but I'm pretty confident I know about how many it is.
That's excellent.